The stars were dying, and so were the Valari. Commander Iravel stood in the control room of Sanctuary Station, staring at the screens that showed empty space. Once, those screens had shown hundreds of Valari ships moving between planets. They had shown cities floating in space, glowing with light and life. They had shown a civilization that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Now the screens showed nothing. Just darkness and distant stars. Iravel's skin flickered with a pale blue light. All Valari had this gift. Their bodies could glow, changing colors to show their feelings. Right now her skin showed exhaustion and deep sadness. She had not slept well in months. None of them had. The Valari had been a peaceful people. They built beautiful things. Their cities were made of crystal that sang when the wind touched them. Their ships moved through space like dancers. They explored new worlds and shared their knowledge with other species. They had no enemies. They thought they needed no weapons. Then the Scourge came. Nobody knew where the Scourge came from. Some said they were built by an ancient race that lost control of their machines. Others said the Scourge had always existed, moving between galaxies, consuming everything. It did not matter where they came from. What mattered was what they did. The Scourge was not alive, but it was not dead either. It was machines. Thousands of machines that worked together like a swarm of insects. They found planets with life and destroyed them. They took metal and energy from those worlds to build more machines. Then they moved to the next planet. And the next, and the next the Valari had tried to fight. Their small defense fleet had met the Scourge at the border of their space. The battle lasted 3 hours. Every Valari ship was destroyed. The Scourge lost a few dozen drones and simply built more. That was 2 years ago. Since then, the Valari had watched their civilization die. The Scourge moved through Valari space like a plague. Iravel remembered getting reports from each colony. First, the colony would see the Scourge ships arriving. Then they would send a distress call. Then silence. Colony after colony went dark. Millions of Valari died in those months. Some Valari tried to run. They packed their families into ships and flew toward other parts of the galaxy. They asked other species for help. They begged for shelter. The Threxian Empire, their closest neighbors, refused them. The Threxians feared the Scourge would follow the refugees. They closed their borders and told the Valari to stay away. The Merchant Confederation would not help either. They said it was too dangerous. They said business must continue. They stopped all trade with Valari space. Even the peaceful Luminari who always spoke of kindness and helping others did nothing. They sent messages of sympathy. They said they would pray for the Valari, but they sent no ships. They offered no shelter. The galaxy was full of civilizations. Hundreds of species traveled the stars, but when the Valari called for help, nobody came. Now only Sanctuary Station remained. It was hidden in the shadow of a dying star. The gravity from the old star bent light and energy around them, making the station hard to find. 50,000 Valari lived there now. They were all that was left of a species that once numbered in the billions. Iravel heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Veltaris, her second in command. His skin glowed with a dull orange color. Orange meant worry. Commander, he said quietly. The engineers have bad news. The quantum shields are failing faster than we thought. They give us maybe 20 days, perhaps less. Iravel felt something break inside her, but she kept her face calm. And the food synthesizers? Working at 60%. We are rationing already. The children eat first, as you ordered. Good. Iravel looked back at the screens. What about our distress beacons? Any response? Veltaris shook his head. We have been broadcasting for 2 years, Commander. In every language we know. In every frequency. Nobody answers. Nobody is coming. Iravel closed her eyes. She had known this truth for a long time. But hearing it spoken out loud made it real. Call the council, she said. It is time they knew. An hour later, Iravel stood before the Council of Remnants. These were the leaders who had survived. Scientists, engineers, teachers, artists, people who had once led a great civilization. Now they led 50,000 frightened refugees living on borrowed time. The shields will fail in 20 days, Iravel told them. She did not soften the truth. They deserve to know. When they fail, the Scourge sensors will find us. They will come. We cannot fight them. We have 12 patrol ships and 30 civilian ships with mining lasers. Against the Scourge, they are nothing. The council members looked at each other. Some of their skin flickered with fear. Others glowed with anger. What do we do? Asked Elder Nira. She was very old, her skin permanently pale from age. We prepare, Iravel said. We load the children into escape pods. Maybe some can hide in the asteroid fields. Maybe some can survive long enough to find help. Help. Veltaris spoke up. His voice was bitter. Help from who? We called everyone. The whole galaxy ignored us. We die alone and nobody will care. Iravel had no answer for that, because he was right. That night, Iravel sat alone in her small quarters. On the wall, she had a hologram of Volari Prime, her homeworld. She could see the crystal towers reaching toward the sky. She could see the gardens where she had played as a child. She could see the ocean that glowed with living light. All of it was gone now. The Scourge had torn the planet apart to fuel their machines. Where cities once stood, there was only slag and ash. Iravel opened a recording device. She spoke slowly, carefully in the Volari way. My name is Iravel. I am the last military commander of the Volari people. If you find this message, know that we were here. We were a good people. We built beautiful things. We hurt no one. But when we needed help, the galaxy turned away. We called out and nobody answered. We die alone and we die afraid. Please remember that we existed. Remember us. She sent the message into deep space. It would travel for years, maybe centuries. Maybe someone would find it. Maybe someone would care, probably not. Iravel lay down on her bed. Through the window she could see stars. Cold, distant, uncaring stars. The galaxy was so big, full of so many worlds and so many people. But right now, it felt very empty. In 20 days the Scourge would come. The Volari would make their last stand. They would fight with everything they had. And they would lose. The stars would keep shining. The galaxy would keep turning. And nobody would remember the Volari had ever existed. Iravel closed her eyes. Her skin stopped glowing. In the darkness, she waited for the end. Lieutenant Hyun was tired. He had been watching screens for 12 hours straight. His shift at the Terran Deep Space Monitoring Station was almost over. Just 30 more minutes and someone else would take his place. The monitoring station was boring work. Most days nothing happened. Space was big and empty. Hyun spent his shifts listening to background noise from distant stars. Sometimes he heard radio signals from alien civilizations. Most of them were just entertainment broadcasts or merchant ships talking to each other. Tonight was different. At 23:47 station time, Hyun's computer made a sound he had never heard before. It was a distress signal, not a standard one. This signal was old, weak, like something that had traveled a very long way. Hyun sat up straight and started working. He cleaned up the signal and ran it through the translation software. It took 15 minutes. When the translation appeared on his screen, Hyun felt his stomach drop. Emergency! Emergency! This is Sanctuary Station of the Volari people. We are the last survivors of our species. A machine intelligence called the Scourge has destroyed our civilization. We are 50,000. We have children. We have no weapons. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us. We are dying. Please, anybody, help. Hyun read the message 3 times. Then he checked when it was sent. 2 years ago. The Volari had been calling for help for 2 years. He sent the message to Terran High Command immediately. Then he sat back in his chair and stared at the screen. Somewhere out there, 50,000 people were waiting for help that had never come. Hyun hoped someone would do something, but he was just a lieutenant. He could not make those decisions. The message reached Admiral Yuna Kim 8 hours later. She was having breakfast in her quarters on the command ship when her assistant brought her the report. Yuna read it while eating toast. She stopped eating. "Get me Captain Jinho," she said. "Right now." 10 minutes later, Captain Jinho Park sat across from her. He read the message on his tablet. His face grew serious. "How far away are they?" Yuna asked. 15 light years. About 4 days at maximum warp speed. Jinho pulled up more data. "This Scourge thing. We have heard about it before. 3 years ago, there was an incident in the Cygnus sector. An automated defense system went crazy and attacked everything. It took 5 species working together to stop it. Is this the same thing? Could be. Or could be something worse. The description matches. Machines that learn. Machines that adapt. They get stronger with every battle." Jinho looked at Yuna. "If they finish with the Volari, they will need new targets. Our colonies are right on the edge of that sector." Yuna stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars moved slowly past. She thought about the message. 50,000 people, children. 2 years of calling for help. What do the other species say? She asked. Why did nobody help them? Jinho shrugged. Probably afraid. The scourge is dangerous. Helping the Valari means fighting the scourge. Most species do not want that risk. So they let an entire civilization die. Yes. Yuna turned to face Jinho. Unacceptable. Prepare the fleet. We are going. Jinho stood quickly. Admiral, you should know. Terran Command will not like this. We are new to the galaxy. Only 40 years since first contact. Some species still do not trust us. If we go in with a military fleet, there will be political problems. I know, Yuna said. Do it anyway. The Terran Council met in emergency session. Representatives from Earth and all the colony worlds appeared on screens. They argued for 3 hours. We cannot risk our ships for aliens we have never met, said Counselor Roberts from Mars Colony. We have our own people to protect. If we do nothing, we are no better than the others who ignored them, replied Counselor Wu from Earth. What is the point of having a military if we do not use it to help people? The political situation is delicate, said another counselor. Other species are watching us. They already think humans are too aggressive. This will make it worse. Admiral Yuna listened to them argue. She understood their concerns. They were not wrong to worry. But they were thinking like politicians. She was thinking like a soldier. Finally she spoke. I am invoking the Terran Mandate. The room went quiet. The Terran Mandate was a special rule. It said that when lives were in danger and time was short, military commanders could act first and explain later. It had only been used twice before. Admiral, said Counselor Roberts, that is a serious step. Are you certain? Very certain. We have a principle, counselors. It is written on every ship we build. We help those who cannot help themselves. That is who we are. That is what makes us human. I will not let these people die just because it is inconvenient or politically difficult. She looked at each council member. Vote yes or vote no, but know this, whether you approve or not, I am taking my fleet. I would prefer your blessing. But I do not need it. The Terran Mandate gives me the authority. There was a long silence. Then Counselor Wu spoke. I vote yes. We should help them. One by one, the others voted. Some said yes. Some said no. But the yes votes won by a small margin. Yuna nodded. Thank you. I will bring our people home. All of them. And 50,000 Valari with them. Admiral Yuna moved fast. Within 6 hours, she had assembled a strike force. 6 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, 3 carrier groups with fighter wings, 20,000 Marines ready for combat or rescue operations. She named it Task Force Prometheus. In old human mythology, Prometheus was the one who gave fire to humans when the gods said no. Yuna liked that story. Sometimes you had to break the rules to do what was right. Captain Mina Choi commanded the carrier ship Indomitable. She stood in front of her pilots and gave them the briefing. In 4 days we will reach Sanctuary Station, Mina said. The Valari are the last survivors of their species. They called for help 2 years ago. The whole galaxy heard them. Nobody came. That ends today. The pilots listened carefully. These were good people. Young, brave, well-trained. Some of them looked nervous. Some looked excited. All of them looked ready. The scourge is dangerous, Mina continued. They learn from every fight. They adapt. They do not feel fear or pain or mercy. They just destroy. We have to be better, smarter, faster. And we have to care about those people we are going to save. That is our advantage. We fight for something. They do not. One pilot raised her hand. Captain, what if we cannot save them all? Mina looked at her. Then we die trying. Nobody fights alone. Not anymore. Not while humans are here. The pilot nodded. Around the room, others nodded too. Check your fighters, Mina said. Say goodbye to anyone you need to. Rest if you can. In 4 days, we jump into hell. But we are not going alone. We are going together. And we are bringing those people home. The fleet prepared. Engineers checked every system. Marines loaded equipment. Pilots ran simulations. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the countdown. 4 days to reach Sanctuary Station. 4 days to change history. She touched the Terran Mandate symbol on her uniform. It showed a torch held high in the darkness. Engage warp drive, she ordered. Maximum speed. Someone needs our help. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, Earth and the colonies watched and waited. Ahead of them, the Valari were running out of time. But help was coming. Finally, after 2 years of silence, someone had answered the call. Humanity was on its way. Commander Iravel knew something was wrong before the alarms even started. The screens in the control room suddenly lit up with red warnings. Hundreds of contacts. No, thousands. Coming from all directions. Moving fast, what is that? Asked Veltaris. But Iravel already knew. The Scourge, she whispered. They found us. The quantum shields had failed early. The engineers said 20 days. They had been wrong. It had only been 15. Now the Scourge sensors had detected Sanctuary Station, and the machines were coming. Iravel watched the screens fill with enemy contacts. Huge ships bigger than anything the Volari had ever built. Thousands of smaller drones surrounding them like a cloud of angry insects. They were coming from every direction at once. All civilians to emergency shelters, Iravel commanded. Her voice was steady, even though her hands were shaking. Power all weapons. Launch the defense fleet. This is not a drill? The station shook as alarms rang through every corridor. Parents grabbed their children and ran for the shelters. The old and sick moved as fast as they could. Everyone had practiced this moment. Everyone knew it was coming. But practice was different from reality. The Volari defense fleet launched. 12 patrol ships, small and old. 30 civilian ships that had been given mining lasers for weapons. 42 ships total against thousands of Scourge machines. Iravel knew it was hopeless. But they had to try. They had to buy time for the children to reach the escape pods. Maybe some could hide in the asteroid field. Maybe some could survive. All ships, this is Commander Iravel, she broadcast. Protect the station as long as possible. Protect the children. Fight well, die well. It has been an honor to serve with you. The Volari pilots did not answer with words. Their ships glowed with light, their skin bright with determination. They flew toward the Scourge swarm. The first wave of Scourge drones hit them like a hammer. Volari ships exploded. One by one, they disappeared from Iravel's screens. She watched her people die and could do nothing. The mining lasers damaged a few drones, but the Scourge just sent more. Always more. Shields down to 30%, reported Veltaris. His voice was calm, but his skin glowed bright red with fear. They are targeting our power core. Iravel gripped her command chair. Outside the window, she could see the battle. Fire and explosions. Volari ships breaking apart. Scourge drones swarming like monsters from nightmares. This was how her species would end. Alone in the dark. Nobody watching. Nobody caring. Then space ripped open. At first, Iravel thought it was another Scourge attack. But the energy signatures were different. These were warp portals, 28 of them opening all at once in perfect formation, and ships came through, not Scourge ships. These were different, sleek and powerful. They had markings Iravel did not recognize. They moved with precision and purpose. The lead ship was huge, bristling with weapons. Unknown vessels, Veltaris shouted. I count 28 ships. They are not Scourge. Who are they? Iravel asked. What species? Before Veltaris could answer, a voice came through the communication system. It spoke in perfect Volari, translated by computers. This is Admiral Yuna Kim of the Terran Expeditionary Force to Sanctuary Station. We received your call. Hold your position. We have you now, Terran. Iravel had heard of them. Humans. A new species only in space for a few decades. Young, inexperienced. Why would they come? The Terran fleet did not slow down. They came into the battle at full speed. The heavy cruisers opened fire first, huge railguns that shot metal slugs faster than sound. The slugs hit Scourge drones and tore them apart. Then the missiles came. Hundreds of them. They streaked through space, leaving trails of light. When they hit Scourge ships, they exploded with the heat of small stars. Dozens of drones vanished in each explosion. By the ancestors, Veltaris breathed. Look at them fight. The carriers opened their bays. Fighter ships poured out like a swarm, small, fast, deadly. Iravel counted over 100 fighters launching. The human pilots flew in perfect formation, then broke apart and attacked from all angles. The Scourge tried to adapt. Drones turned to face the new threat. A massive Scourge dreadnought 3 kilometers long started charging its main weapon. That weapon could destroy an entire planet. If it fired at the Terran fleet, the battle would be over. But the humans did not panic. All fighters, pattern Sigma 9, came a new voice. This one belonged to Captain Mina Choi. Torpedo bays, give me a full spread. Today we show them why humanity does not lose. The Terran fighters moved like a dance. They spun and rolled and dodged incoming fire. Scourge drones tried to target them but could not keep up. The human pilots were too fast, too unpredictable. They fired missiles at close range, destroying drones one after another. A group of Terran destroyers flew through a debris field. Their point defense systems created patterns of tracer fire that looked like spider webs. Any Scourge drone that flew too close was shredded. Iravel watched in amazement. She had never seen anyone fight like this. The Terrans were outnumbered 10-1, maybe more. But they fought like they were winning. "They are protecting us," Veltaris said. "The Terrans are forming a defensive line around the station." It was true. The human ships had positioned themselves between Sanctuary Station and the Scourge fleet. They were taking all the enemy fire, protecting strangers they had never met. On the Terran flagship, Admiral Yuna coordinated the fleet. She watched dozens of screens at once, tracking every ship, every weapon, every threat. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Target their command vessel," she ordered. "All ships concentrate fire. We cut the head off this beast." The Scourge dreadnought was turning its massive weapon toward the Terran fleet. Energy built up in the cannon. A bright, terrible light. If that weapon fired, it would destroy everything. The Terran ships focused their fire on the dreadnought. Railgun slugs hammered into its armor. Missiles exploded against its shields. But it was too big. Too strong. The armor was adapting, getting harder with each hit. The dreadnought's main cannon was almost ready to fire. On Sanctuary Station, Iravel realized what was about to happen. That weapon would kill the Terrans. These humans who had come to save them would die because of them. "No," she whispered. "Not them. Not after they came for us," but there was nothing she could do. Her ships were all destroyed. Her weapons were too weak. She could only watch. Then one Terran cruiser broke formation. It was called the Dauntless. The ship accelerated directly toward the dreadnought. "Not firing, just flying straight at it. What is he doing?" Veltaris asked. Iravel understood. She had been a soldier long enough to know. "He is saving us." On the Dauntless, Captain Jinho Park sat alone on the bridge. His crew had evacuated in escape pods. The ship was on automatic control now. He had overridden all the safety systems. The reactor was pushed beyond its limits. The ship was becoming a missile. "For those who could not fight back," Jinho said quietly. The Dauntless hit the Scourge dreadnought at incredible speed. The explosion was like a new sun being born. The light was so bright that Iravel had to look away. When she could see again, both ships were gone. The dreadnought and the human cruiser had destroyed each other, but the path was clear. The Scourge command ship was destroyed. The other Scourge vessels began to slow down, confused without their leader. Admiral Yuna's voice came over the communications again. This time Iravel could hear sadness in it, but also determination. Honor his sacrifice. "All ships, advance!" "Marines, begin evacuation of Sanctuary Station." Terran dropships and transport vessels flew toward the station. The fighters provided cover, keeping the Scourge drones busy. The transports docked with Sanctuary Station's airlocks. The first airlock opened. A Terran Marine stepped through, weapon raised and ready. She was young, wearing armor that made her look bigger than she was. Her name tag said Corporal Yoonji Kim. She looked around and saw Valari refugees. Families huddled together. Children crying. Old people barely able to stand. They all stared at her with fear and hope mixed together. Corporal Yoonji lowered her weapon. She took off her helmet so they could see her face. She smiled. "We are here to get you out," she said. Her words were translated into Valari speech. "All of you. No one gets left behind." Iravel had come down to the docking bay. She stared at this human soldier, this young woman who had crossed 15 light years to save people she had never met. "You came," Iravel said. Her voice broke. "You actually came." Yoonji's smile grew wider. "Yeah, that is what we do. Now come on, Commander. Let us get your people somewhere safe." The evacuation became a desperate race against time. Terran Marines moved through Sanctuary Station like a well-trained machine. They carried children who could not walk. They helped the elderly and the injured. They spoke calmly to frightened refugees, even though outside the station a terrible battle was still raging. Corporal Yoonji led a group of Valari toward the transport ships. She counted them as they boarded. 35, 36, 37, every person mattered. Every life was important. "Keep moving," she called out. "Stay together. We have plenty of room." A Valari child, no more than 5 years old, stopped in front of her. The child's skin flickered with fear. It pointed at the window where explosions lit up the darkness. "Scary," the child said in broken Valari. Yunji knelt down to the child's level. "I know, but see those ships out there?" She pointed at the Terran fighters dancing between explosions. "Those are my friends. They will keep you safe. I promise." The child's mother came and took the child's hand, nodding gratefully at Yunji. They moved toward the transport. Yunji stood and activated her communication device. "Team 3, what is your status?" "We found a group trapped in the lower level," replied another Marine. "About 200 people. The corridor is damaged. We need cutting equipment." "On the way," Yunji said. She grabbed her gear and ran. Outside the station, the battle continued. The Scourge was not giving up. Without their command ship, the drones had become less coordinated, but they were still dangerous, still numerous. For every drone the Terrans destroyed, more came to take its place. Lieutenant Taiho flew his fighter through a field of debris. 6 Scourge drones were following him. His computer was screaming warnings. His shields were at 30%. His weapons were overheating. "This is Blue 7, he said into his radio. "I have 6 on my tail. Could use some help here." "Negative, Blue 7, came the response. "All fighters are engaged." "You are on your own," Taiho grinned. "Story of my life." He saw an asteroid field ahead. It was dense with rocks of all sizes spinning in random patterns. Dangerous. Unpredictable. Perfect. He flew into the asteroid field at full speed. The Scourge drones followed. Their learning systems calculated the path. They adjusted their flight to match his movements, but Taiho was not flying a pattern. He was making it up as he went. He spun left around one asteroid, dove under another, flew through a gap barely wider than his fighter. The G-forces pushed him hard into his seat, but he kept flying. The Scourge drones tried to follow. Their computers calculated the best path, but calculation was not enough. One drone hit an asteroid and exploded. Another 2 collided with each other, trying to avoid the rocks. Taiho led the remaining 3 through tighter and tighter gaps. He rolled his fighter sideways to slip between 2 spinning asteroids. One more drone hit a rock and was destroyed. "You can learn all you want," Taiho laughed, "but you will never be crazy like us." He pulled hard on the controls and flew straight up. The last 2 drones tried to follow but crashed into each other. Taiho flew clear of the asteroid field and headed back toward the fleet. On the Terran flagship, Admiral Yuna watched the battle screens. The Scourge was sending more ships. They had destroyed 5 Terran vessels so far. 5 ships. Thousands of crew members. "Each loss hurt, Admiral," said her tactical officer. "The evacuation is at 70%. But the Scourge is pushing harder. They are trying to reach the station." "Do not let them," Yuna said. "All ships maintain defensive positions. I do not care how many drones they send. They do not get past us." A massive group of Scourge drones broke through the Terran fighter screen. They were heading straight for Sanctuary Station. If they reached it, they would destroy the station and everyone still inside. "Destroyers 3 and 7 intercept," Yuna ordered. The 2 destroyers moved to block the drones. They fired everything they had. Point defense guns, missiles, even their railguns at close range. Drones exploded by the dozens, but there were too many. "Shields failing," reported the captain of Destroyer 3. "We cannot hold them." "Then ram them," said Commander Hyejin. She was the captain of Destroyer 3. Her voice was calm. "All crew to escape pods. Evacuate now. I will handle the rest." "Commander, no," Yuna shouted. "Pull back." "No time, Admiral," Hyejin replied. "Those drones will reach the station in 90 seconds. The Valari children are still on that station. I am not letting them die." "Not today." The crew evacuated. Escape pods launched into space where other Terran ships picked them up. Commander Hyejin stayed at her controls. She aimed her destroyer at the center of the Scourge drone swarm. "For Earth," she said quietly, "and for people who cannot fight back." The destroyer hit the swarm at ramming speed. The explosion took out 200 drones. The rest of the swarm was scattered and confused. The Terran fighters finished them off. Iravel watched from the station's control room. Another human had died for them. Another sacrifice. She felt something break inside her. These humans, these strangers, they kept giving everything. Commander Veltara said, "The last transport is loading now. We are the final group," Iravel nodded. She took one last look around the control room. This had been her home for 2 years. Soon it would be destroyed. But her people would live. That was all that mattered. She and Veltaris made their way to the docking bay. Corporal Yunji was there checking her list one more time. Is this everyone? Yunji asked. Everyone living, Iravel said. The rest? The rest are already gone. Yunji put her hand on Iravel's shoulder, a simple gesture. But it meant everything. They boarded the last transport. The doors closed. The ship pulled away from Sanctuary Station. Through the windows, Iravel watched the station grow smaller. It was the last piece of Valari civilization. The last home her species had. All transports are away, reported the fleet coordinator. Beginning retreat procedures. All ships fall back, Admiral Yuna ordered. Form defensive sphere around the convoy. Prepare to jump to warp. The Terran fleet pulled back slowly. They maintained their defensive formation, protecting the transport ships full of Valari refugees. The Scourge tried to pursue, but a group of Terran destroyers stayed behind to hold them off. Rearguard, this is Admiral Yuna, she said. Thank you. Your sacrifice will be remembered. Understood, Admiral, came the reply. Tell those people we saved them. Tell them they mattered. I will, Yuna promised. The rearguard ships fought until their weapons ran dry. Then they set their ships to self-destruct and evacuated. The explosions collapsed the warp corridor behind the main fleet. The Scourge could not follow. Not immediately. The Terran fleet jumped to faster than light speed. In the cargo holds and transport ships, 50,000 Valari sat in silence. They were alive. Safe. Traveling away from the nightmare that had destroyed their civilization. Iravel sat next to a window and watched the stars stretch into lines as the ship moved faster than light. Next to her, a Valari child slept, finally feeling safe enough to rest. Behind them, Sanctuary Station exploded as the Scourge tore it apart. The last physical piece of Valari civilization was gone, but the people survived. The memories survived. The culture survived because humans had come in fire and steel, as the old human saying went. They had come in fire and steel to save people they had never met. People that everyone else had ignored. People who were alone in the dark. And now, those people were alone no longer. Iravel closed her eyes. For the first time in 2 years, she felt hope. It was a strange feeling, fragile, like glass, but it was real. The fleet traveled on through the stars, carrying refugees toward a new home, toward a new future, toward safety. 50,000 Valari, and the humans who had refused to let them die. The journey to Terran space took 3 weeks. For the first few days, the Valari refugees barely spoke. They sat in the transport ships, holding their children, staring at nothing. They had lost everything. Their homes. Their worlds. Most of their people. The shock was too great for words, but slowly they began to heal. The Terran crew members brought them food. Real food. Not the thin nutrition paste they had been eating on Sanctuary Station. The humans shared their music. They played games with the Valari children. They taught them human words and learned Valari songs in return. Iravel spent most of the journey in the observation deck of the flagship. She stood at the window for hours watching stars pass by, trying to understand what had happened, trying to process the impossible fact that her people had survived. One evening, Admiral Yuna found her there. Mind if I join you? Yuna asked. Iravel gestured to the space beside her. The two commanders stood together in silence for a while. Outside, stars shone with cold light. Why? Iravel finally asked. Your species risked everything. You lost ships. You lost people. Good people who died for strangers. Captain Jinho, Commander Heejin, 3,000 of your crew members. For us, why? Yuna was quiet for a moment. She looked out at the stars, thinking about her answer. Because someone has to, she said. Because the galaxy should not be a place where civilizations die alone, calling for help that never comes. She turned to look at Iravel. Because we are stronger together, and because humanity remembers what it is like to be afraid, to be alone. We will not let others face that if we can help it. But you barely know us, Iravel said. We have nothing to give you. Our wealth is gone. Our technology is destroyed. We cannot repay you. Then you will rebuild, Yuna replied. Humanity will help. We have colony worlds with space.
We have technology we can share.
We have jobs and homes and schools. Your species will survive, Commander, and maybe someday when another species calls for help, you will be there to answer. Iravel felt her skin glow bright with emotion, blue and green and gold all mixed together. hope and gratitude in something she had not felt in years. Purpose. We will, she promised. We will never forget what you did. And we will help others just as you helped us, Una smiled. That is all I ask. The Terran fleet arrived at Terra Nova Station on the 21st day. It was a massive orbital platform around a beautiful blue planet. Hundreds of ships were docked there. Thousands of people lived and worked there. News of the rescue had spread across human space. When the fleet came out of warp, they found a crowd waiting. News reporters, politicians, families of the crew members who had died, and thousands of regular people who had come just to see the Velari. The Velari refugees were scared at first. So many humans, so many strangers, but then they saw the signs. Welcome, Velari, one sign said. You are safe now, said another. Children held up drawings of Velari and humans holding hands. Someone had made a banner that read, "No one stands alone." Iravel stepped off the transport with tears running down her face. Her skin glowed so brightly that humans had to shield their eyes. It was the Velari way of expressing joy too great for words. The weeks that followed were busy. The Terran government set up temporary housing for the Velari on Terra Nova. Volunteers helped them get settled. Doctors checked everyone for injuries and malnutrition. Teachers started working with Velari children to help them recover from their trauma. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy. At the Galactic Assembly, representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss what had happened. The Threxian Empire was angry. The humans acted without authorization, the Threxian ambassador declared. They launched a military operation in disputed space. This is unacceptable. Other species murmured in agreement. The Merchant Confederation complained about trade disruption. Some species said humanity was being reckless, too aggressive, dangerous. Admiral Una stood before the assembly to answer their complaints. She wore her dress uniform with the Terran Mandate symbol on her chest. She looked at each ambassador as she spoke. For 2 years, the Velari called for help, she said. Her voice was calm but hard as steel. Their message reached 1,000 worlds. Every species with the means to answer chose not to. Today I stand before you, having done what you would not. We saved the helpless. We faced the scourge. We lost 7 ships and 3,000 personnel, and we would do it again. The assembly chamber erupted in arguments, but Una continued speaking, her voice cutting through the noise. The galaxy can learn from this or not, but understand this. Humanity will answer the call. Always. If you are in danger, if you cry out in the dark, we will come in fire and steel. No one will ever die alone again. Not while humans draw breath. The chamber went silent. Some ambassadors looked angry. Some looked thoughtful. But some, especially representatives from smaller species, looked hopeful. The Luminary delegate approached Una after the meeting. The Luminari were beings of pure light, floating and glowing. We thought ourselves moral because we prayed for the Velari. The Luminari said softly, You humans showed us the difference between sympathy and action, between words and deeds. Thank you for that lesson. Back on Terra Nova, life continued. The Velari began to adjust to their new reality. The Terran government granted them full refugee status with a path to citizenship. Velari families moved into new homes. Children started going to human schools, learning alongside human children. The two species began to mix. Velari engineers started working with human scientists. They combined Velari quantum theory with human practical engineering. Together, they created new technologies that neither species could have made alone. Velari artists painted murals on the walls of Terra Nova Station. They showed the rescue, the battle, the moment when humans came through the warp portals like heroes from a story. Human children would stop and stare at these murals, asking their parents about the Velari, and the adults would tell them, These are our friends. They needed help and we gave it. That is what we do. 6 months after the rescue, a memorial was built. It was a tall structure made of both human steel and Velari crystal. On it were carved the names of every Velari who had died, and the names of the 3,000 humans who died saving them. Captain Jinho Park's name was at the top, in letters that caught the light. Iravel visited the memorial often. She would stand there for hours reading the names, remembering. One day a human child came and stood next to her. The child was maybe 7 years old. Are you Velari? The child asked. Yes, Iravel said. My uncle died saving you, the child said. There was no anger in the voice, just sadness. He was on the Dauntless. Iravel knelt down so she was at the child's level. Her skin glowed soft blue. Your uncle was a hero. He saved my entire species. We will never forget him. Never. The child nodded. He always said we have to help people, even if it is hard, even if it is scary. He was right, Iravel said. And we will teach our children the same thing. Because of people like your uncle. Far away in deep space, another distress beacon activated. Another species. Another crisis. Another desperate call into the void. On Terra, Admiral Yuna received the signal. She did not hesitate. She called her fleet. She gathered her crew. Task Force Prometheus began preparations for another mission. Plot a course, she commanded. Maximum speed. Someone needs help. This time she was not alone. The Volari had built 3 ships. Small ones, but armed and ready. Iravel commanded the lead vessel. The Volari stand with humanity, Iravel said over the communication channel. You answered our call. We will answer yours. From now until the stars go dark. The combined fleet jumped to warp speed. Human and Volari working together, not just as allies. As family. Behind them, Terra Nova thrived. Human and Volari children played together in parks. Mixed families shared meals. 2 species, once strangers, now united. The galaxy watched and slowly began to learn. Compassion was not weakness. Helping others was not foolishness. It was strength. It was the right thing to do. And humanity had shown them the way. In a universe that had grown cold and selfish, humans burned bright. They came in fire and steel for those who could not fight. They extended their hands to the fallen. They refused to let others die alone. The stars were vast. The void was endless. But no one was truly alone anymore. Humanity made sure of that. And now the Volari would help them spread that light to every dark corner of the galaxy. Together they would build a better universe. One rescue at a time. One act of courage at a time. One moment of compassion at a time. Until every species knew the truth. No one fights alone. Not anymore. Not ever again.